The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the dark void between three star systems. Its metal walls stretched for miles in every direction, housing the most important meeting place in the known galaxy. Today, like every month for the past 3,000 years, the Galactic Council was gathering to discuss the affairs of civilized space. Captain Jake Morrison walked through the long corridors of the station, his black uniform marking him as a representative of Earth and the human colonies. Other beings moved past him without a second glance. Some had 4 arms and purple skin. Others looked like giant insects with clicking sounds coming from their mouths. A few appeared almost human but had silver eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light. Jake had been coming to these meetings for 5 years now. Ever since humanity joined the Galactic Council, every time, he felt the same thing. The other species treated humans like children who had somehow learned to walk but still needed constant watching. They spoke to him with the tone people used when talking to a pet that had learned a simple trick. The main council chamber was enormous. 12 different seats surrounded a circular platform in the center. Each seat was designed for a different alien species. The Kalani had tall chairs that looked like thrones. The Zephyrians needed seats filled with a special gas they breathed. The Vorthak required metal platforms that could support their massive weight. Jake's seat was small and plain, positioned at the very back of the chamber. It was marked as an observer seat, not a voting member. Humans could watch and listen, but they had no real voice in galactic affairs. The other species had decided this when they first discovered Earth 50 years ago. Admiral Zexathara of the Kalani Empire stood at the center platform. She was 8 feet tall with skin that looked like polished stone. Her 4 eyes moved independently as she looked around the chamber. When she spoke, her voice came through a translator that made her words sound cold and sharp. Today we discuss the border dispute between the Kalani Empire and the Zephyrian Trade Federation, she announced. Our patrol ships have detected unauthorized mining operations in the Zirian system. The Zephyrian representative, a being that looked like a floating jellyfish inside a clear suit, responded with angry clicks and whistles. The translator converted his words into standard galactic speech. The Kalani have no claim to those asteroids. Our charts show they are in neutral space. Jake pulled out a small device and began taking notes. This was his job as Earth's observer. He recorded everything that happened and sent reports back to Earth Command. Most of the time, these meetings were boring. Trade disputes, territory, arguments, and discussions about technologies that humans couldn't even understand. The human observer is taking his little notes again, Admiral Zexathara said with what sounded like amusement. Tell me, Captain Morrison, what does your species think about this matter? Jake looked up from his device. All the alien eyes in the chamber were focused on him. He felt heat rise in his cheeks. Humans believe that peaceful negotiation is always better than conflict, he said carefully. Several of the council members made sounds that might have been laughter. The Kalani Admiral's 4 eyes narrowed. Of course you do. Your species has no real military force to speak of. Your largest ships are barely able to travel between star systems without breaking down. The humans use chemical rockets and basic fusion drives, added the ethereal collective representative, a being made of what looked like living light. Their technology is at least 500 years behind the most basic galactic standards. Jake said nothing. He had learned long ago that defending humanity's achievements only made the other species more dismissive. They had seen Earth space, fleet when first contact was made. Old-style ships that moved slowly and required massive amounts of fuel for even short trips. Compared to the sleek vessels that could cross the galaxy in days, human technology looked like toys made by children. The meeting continued for several hours. The council discussed trade routes, scientific discoveries, and military deployments. They talked about wars between distant species and peace treaties that would affect billions of lives. Through it all, Jake sat in his small chair and took notes ignored by beings whose civilizations were older than human recorded history. During a break in the proceedings, Jake stepped out into one of the station's observation decks. Through the massive windows he could see his ship, the Aurora, docked at one of the smaller platforms. It looked tiny next to the alien vessels surrounding it. The Aurora was one of humanity's newest diplomatic ships, but next to the curved and glowing forms of the other species' technology, it looked crude and primitive. Jake pulled out his personal communication device to check for messages from Earth. There was one new message, marked with the highest security code. His heart began to beat faster as he opened it. Phase 1 approved. Operation Revelation begins tomorrow. Stay calm and act normal. Everything changes soon. Admiral Carter. Jake read the message 3 times before it sank in. Operation Revelation. He had heard whispers about it back on Earth, but he never thought it would actually happen. For 50 years, humanity had been playing a careful game. They had hidden their true capabilities, allowed the galaxy to think they were weak and primitive. He deleted the message and put his device away. When he returned to the council chamber, Admiral Zexathera was talking about military fleet positions. She was explaining how the Kalani Empire had the strongest military force in 3 sectors of the galaxy. No species in our region has the capability to challenge Kalani military superiority, she declared. Our ships use quantum drives and particle beam weapons. We have over 10,000 battle cruisers spread across our territory. The other council members nodded in agreement. Some species had impressive technology, but none could match the Kalani military machine. They had kept peace in the galaxy through strength and the fear their weapons inspired. Jake looked around the chamber at all, the powerful beings who controlled the fate of billions of lives. Tomorrow, everything they thought they knew about humans would change. Tomorrow, the galaxy would discover that the quiet species sitting in the back of the room had been hiding secrets that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. But for now, Jake sat quietly and took notes, just as he had for 5 years, just as they expected him to do. The other species continued their important discussions about power and territory and technology, never suspecting that the primitive humans were about to change everything. The morning alarm on Nexus Prime sounded at the same time it had for 3,000 years. Jake Morrison woke up in his small quarters and prepared for what he knew would be the most important day in galactic history. His hands shook slightly as he put on his uniform. Today, humanity would reveal the truth. Across the galaxy in 3 different star systems, monitoring stations began their daily routine of tracking space traffic. The operators were bored as usual. Most days brought nothing more than cargo ships and passenger transports moving between planets. The screen showed empty space dotted with distant stars. Then everything changed. Lieutenant Sarah Kim was working the night shift at the Proxima station when her sensors began screaming warnings. Energy readings were off the charts. Something massive was about to appear in their system, but the signature was unlike anything in the galactic database. "This can't be right," Sarah muttered, checking her equipment. The readings showed a power output that would require the combined energy of 3 suns. No known technology could generate that much force. The space in front of her station began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot metal. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist. Then, without any flash of light or explosion of energy, a ship appeared. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The vessel was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the largest Kalani battleship. But it wasn't the size that made her hands tremble. It was the way the ship looked. The hull seemed to be made of something that wasn't quite solid. Light bent around it, making it appear translucent. Parts of the ship seemed to fade in and out of existence. "Command, this is Proxima Station," Sarah said into her communication device. Her voice cracked with fear. "We have an unknown vessel in our system. It's nothing like anything we've ever seen." The same scene was playing out in 2 other systems. Monitoring stations detected the impossible ships appearing from nowhere. The vessels didn't use jump gates or hyperspace corridors like every other ship in the galaxy. They simply stepped out of folded space as if the laws of physics didn't apply to them. On the bridge of the ship called Defiance, Captain Lisa Hayes stood calmly at her command station. Around her, 30 crew members worked at control panels that looked nothing like standard galactic technology. Instead of buttons and switches, the controls responded to thoughts and hand movements. The crew wore thin metal bands around their heads that connected them directly to the ship's systems. "Status report," Lisa said quietly. "All systems are functioning perfectly, Captain," replied her first officer, Lieutenant Commander Mark Johnson. "We're receiving contact attempts from local monitoring stations. They sound pretty scared." Lisa almost smiled. After 50 years of hiding, it felt good to show the galaxy what humans could really do. The Defiance was powered by technology that other species couldn't even imagine. The ship's engines didn't burn fuel or split atoms. They manipulated the basic forces that held reality together. "Open a channel to Nexus Prime," Lisa ordered. "It's time to let the Council know we're here." Back on Nexus Prime, the Council was in emergency session. Reports were flooding in from across 3 sectors. Unknown ships with impossible technology had appeared simultaneously. The energy readings suggested weapons that could destroy entire planets. Panic was spreading through the station as species representatives demanded answers. Admiral Zexathera stood at the center of the chamber, her 4 eyes blazing with anger and fear. Where did these ships come from? What species has technology this advanced? The ethereal collective representative pulsed with nervous light. "The energy patterns are completely unknown. These vessels appear to be operating outside our understanding of physics." Jake Morrison sat in his observer chair, fighting to keep his expression neutral. All around him, the most powerful beings in the galaxy were terrified. They were used to being in control, to understanding everything that happened in their territory. Now they faced something that challenged everything they thought they knew. "The ships are maintaining position at the edge of 3 systems," reported the Zephyrian representative. "They have made no aggressive moves, but their very presence is causing system-wide evacuations." Suddenly, the main display screen in the Council chamber activated. A human face appeared wearing the uniform of Earth's military. Commander Ryan Blake looked directly at the assembled Council members. "Honorable Council members," Ryan said in a calm, steady voice, "I believe there has been a fundamental misunderstanding about human capabilities." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Species that had considered humans barely civilized were now seeing them command technology that defied explanation. Admiral Zexathera's translator struggled to keep up with her rapid, angry speech. "Impossible. Humans don't have the technology to build such vessels. Your species can barely achieve basic faster-than-light travel." Ryan's expression didn't change. "Admiral, with respect, you've been observing our civilian transport vessels and diplomatic ships. What you're seeing now is what we call a reconnaissance vessel. It's one of our smaller military craft." The Council members looked at each other in disbelief. If this massive, reality-bending ship was considered small, what did human military might actually look like? Ryan continued speaking. "The vessel you're detecting is the Defiance, commanded by Captain Lisa Hayes. She's been ordered to demonstrate some of our basic capabilities." On the main screen, a tactical display showed the Defiance moving through space. But it wasn't moving like any ship the Council had ever seen. Instead of using visible engines or energy trails, the vessel simply appeared to slide through space as if it were swimming through water. It made turns that should have torn it apart, stopped instantly without any deceleration, and then vanished completely before reappearing somewhere else. "Your ship is violating the basic laws of physics," the ethereal collective representative said, his light flickering with confusion. "Actually," Ryan replied, "we're using physics that your species haven't discovered yet. We learned long ago that the universe has layers of reality. Most species work within the first layer. We've learned to access the deeper ones." The chamber fell silent. 3,000 years of galactic civilization had been built on the assumption that certain things were impossible. Now a species they had dismissed as primitive was demonstrating that impossible was just another word for undiscovered. Ryan activated a holographic projector. The image showed 17 more ships identical to the Defiance, all holding position at the edge of the solar system. Each one was a masterpiece of technology that shouldn't exist. "These are defensive positions only," Ryan explained. "Humanity has no desire for conquest, but we thought it was time to have an honest conversation about our place in the galactic community. Admiral Zexthara stared at the display, her 4 eyes wide with shock. Her empire's 10,000 battlecruisers suddenly seemed like toys compared to these impossible human vessels. The galaxy would never be the same. The emergency council session began 3 hours after the first human ships appeared. Every species representative was present, many having traveled through the night from their home worlds. The atmosphere in the chamber was thick with fear and confusion. Beings who had ruled the galaxy for centuries now faced something they couldn't understand or control. Dr. Amy Watson walked into the council chamber wearing a simple white lab coat over her Earth uniform. She carried a small device in her hands and moved with the calm confidence of someone who had been preparing for this moment her entire career. As humanity's chief scientist on Nexus Prime, she had spent 5 years studying alien technology while carefully hiding her own knowledge. "Honorable council members," Amy began, her voice clear and steady. "I understand you have questions about human technology. I'm here to provide some answers." Admiral Zexthara leaned forward in her massive chair, her 4 eyes focused on Amy with intense suspicion. "Dr. Watson, your species has been among us for 50 years. We've examined your ships, your computers, your weapons. Everything we've seen suggests you are centuries behind galactic standards. How do you explain what we witnessed today?" Amy smiled slightly. "Admiral, you've been examining what we wanted you to see. Our cargo ships, diplomatic vessels, and basic military craft all use technology that we developed hundreds of years ago. We keep using it because it makes other species comfortable around us." The ethereal collective representative pulsed with bright light, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. "Are you saying humans have been deliberately deceiving the galactic community?" "Not deceiving," Amy replied. "Protecting ourselves. When we first discovered we weren't alone in the universe, we realized we had 2 choices. We could reveal our true capabilities and risk being seen as a threat to be destroyed, or we could appear weak and harmless while we learned about galactic civilization." Amy activated her small device. A holographic display appeared above the center platform, showing complex diagrams that made several council members lean back in alarm. The images showed energy patterns that twisted through dimensions most species didn't even know existed. "The technology you saw today is based on a discovery your species missed," Amy continued. "Consciousness itself generates a quantum field. Every thinking being creates ripples in the fabric of reality simply by being aware of their existence." The Zephyrian representative made clicking sounds of confusion. "Consciousness is just brain activity. It has no effect on physical reality." "That's what we thought too until we learned to measure it," Amy said. "Humans discovered this field by accident during our early space exploration. We found that our thoughts could influence quantum probability when focused correctly. While other species built machines that work around natural laws, we learned to use our minds to bend those laws." She changed the holographic display to show the interior of the Defiance. The council members could see human crew members sitting at stations that responded to their thoughts rather than their hands. Metal bands around their heads glowed softly as they connected their consciousness directly to the ship's systems. "Each human crew member becomes part of the ship's operating system," Amy explained. "Their thoughts control gravity fields, energy patterns, and space-time manipulation. The ship doesn't just move faster than light, it steps outside normal space entirely." Admiral Zexthara stood up, her massive form towering over the chamber. "This is impossible. If consciousness could affect reality, we would have discovered it long ago. Our civilizations are thousands of years older than yours." Amy nodded respectfully. "Your civilizations are indeed ancient and advanced, but you evolved differently than humans did. Your species developed in stable environments with logical progression. Earth was chaos. Wars, disasters, extinction events, survival against impossible odds. This forced human consciousness to develop in unique ways." The hologram changed again, showing brain scans comparing human neural patterns to those of other species. The differences were striking. Human brain activity showed chaotic patterns that seemed random but were actually incredibly complex. "Your minds work logically and efficiently," Amy continued. "Human minds are chaotic and creative. Quantum fields, respond to chaos and creativity, not logic and order. That's why other species couldn't discover this technology. Your thoughts are too organized to create the right kind of quantum resonance. Suddenly, another voice filled the chamber. A new holographic figure appeared beside Amy. Admiral Patricia Stone stood in what looked like a massive construction facility. Behind her, hundreds of ships similar to the Defiance were being built by humans working directly with the materials using only their thoughts. "Greetings, Council members," Admiral Stone said. "I'm speaking to you from Earth's primary shipyard. We've been preparing for this revelation for 50 years. The construction facility behind her was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Humans floated in the air without any visible support, shaping metal and energy with hand gestures and focused concentration. Ships grew from basic materials like living things, their hulls forming through directed consciousness rather than traditional manufacturing. We've built over 300 vessels using consciousness technology," Admiral Stone continued. "Each ship requires no fuel, no traditional power source, and no mechanical repairs. The crew's minds provide everything needed for operation." Dr. Watson added more details that made the Council members increasingly uncomfortable. "Our defensive shields exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Our weapons don't fire projectiles or energy beams. They alter probability fields to make enemy attacks simply fail to happen. Our communication system works instantly across any distance, because consciousness isn't limited by the speed of light." The Kalani Admiral's translator was working overtime as she spoke rapidly in her native language. When it finally converted, her words, the translation came out as a mixture of anger and fear. "If humans possess such power, why haven't you used it to conquer the galaxy?" Amy looked directly at Admiral Zexthera. "Because conquest requires the kind of logical, organized thinking that prevents consciousness technology from working. The moment we try to use our abilities for domination or aggression, the quantum fields become unstable. This technology only works when used for protection, exploration, and cooperation. The universe itself prevents us from becoming conquerors," Admiral Stone added from her holographic transmission. "It's as if consciousness technology comes with built-in moral limits. The more peaceful and cooperative we are, the more powerful our abilities become." The Council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity possessed technology that was not only more advanced than anything in the galaxy, but it was technology that couldn't be used for evil purposes. The most powerful species in galactic history was also the most limited in how they could use their power. Jake Morrison, still sitting in his observer chair, watched as 3,000 years of galactic civilization tried to process this new reality. The species that had dismissed humans as primitive now faced the possibility that they were in the presence of beings who had transcended the normal limitations of physical existence. Everything they thought they knew about power, technology, and the nature of reality itself had just been turned upside down. The news spread across the galaxy faster than anyone thought possible. Within 6 hours of Dr. Watson's presentation, every major world knew that humans possessed technology that could change everything. Communication networks burned with frantic messages as governments tried to understand what this meant for their civilizations. On the Kalani homeworld of Zexthar Prime, Emergency General Vorthak slammed his 4 fists against the war room table. Around him, dozens of military officers stared at holographic displays showing the impossible human ships. The vessels moved through space like ghosts, appearing and disappearing without following any known laws of physics. "This changes everything," General Vorthak growled, his translator struggling with his rapid speech. "For 3,000 years, the Kalani Empire has maintained order through military strength. Now we face beings who can make our entire fleet useless with their thoughts." Colonel Zarthis, one of his top advisors, stepped forward. "General, our scientists have analyzed the recordings from Nexus Prime. If the humans are telling the truth about their limitations, they cannot use their technology for aggressive purposes. This might be our chance to strike before they find a way around those restrictions. Prepare the 3rd Battle Fleet," General Vorthak ordered. "We'll test these human claims about peaceful limitations. If they're lying, we'll discover it quickly. If they're telling the truth, we'll find out what happens when they're forced to defend themselves." Across the galaxy, Other species were making very different decisions. In the crystal cities of the Zephyrian Trade Federation, President Malandra called an emergency meeting of the Board of Commerce. The Zephyrians had built their civilization on trade and profit, and they immediately saw the opportunities that human technology represented. Imagine cargo ships that require no fuel, President Malandra said to her advisors. Transportation that moves faster than light without using jump gates. Manufacturing that shapes materials with pure thought. The humans could revolutionize galactic commerce. We should send our best negotiators to Earth immediately, suggested Trade Minister Zelnoth. Whatever alliance terms they want, we should consider them. The economic advantages of partnering with humans could make the Federation the richest civilization in the galaxy. Meanwhile, the ancient ethereal collective was taking a different approach entirely. In their realm of pure energy and thought, the Council of Illumination debated the philosophical implications of human consciousness technology. These beings had transcended physical form millions of years ago, existing as living light and pure intellect. The humans have discovered what we learned long ago, spoke the primary illumination, its voice echoing through dimensions. Consciousness is the fundamental force of the universe. They are beginning the same journey we completed eons past. Should we reveal ourselves to them? Asked another council member. The humans might be ready to learn about the deeper mysteries of existence. Not yet, the primary illumination replied. They must discover their own path as we did. But we will watch with great interest. Back on Nexus Prime, Jake Morrison found himself at the center of a diplomatic storm unlike anything in galactic history. His small quarters had become a meeting place where representatives from dozens of species came seeking information about human intentions. The aquatic delegation from Oceanus Prime arrived first, their water-filled environmental suits making soft splashing sounds as they moved. Through their translators, they offered to share their advanced underwater cities in exchange for human protection from colony expansion. Next came the silicon-based builders from the crystalline worlds, offering to construct entire space stations, using human consciousness technology combined with their natural ability to shape crystal and metal. Their spokesman, a being that looked like a walking mountain of gems, spoke in harmonic tones that created beautiful music. Even species that had barely interacted with the Galactic Council began sending messages. The nomadic fleet clans who had wandered the galaxy for centuries in their great ship cities offered to serve as human allies in exchange for the technology to make their vessels truly independent of fuel and supplies. Jake spent 18 hours in continuous meetings trying to manage requests, demands, threats, and offers of alliance from across the galaxy. His communication device never stopped buzzing with new messages. Earth Command was sending him updated instructions every few minutes as they tried to respond to the chaos. Commander Ryan Blake coordinated with Colonel Matt Rodriguez, who had arrived on Nexus Prime aboard a second human vessel. The new ship, called Harmony, demonstrated even more impossible capabilities. It could split into multiple smaller vessels and then rejoin seamlessly. Its crew of 20 operated the ship like a single organism, their thoughts perfectly synchronized. The Kalani, 3rd Battle Fleet is moving toward human space, Colonel Rodriguez reported. They have 500 heavy cruisers and 2,000 support vessels. General Vorthak is apparently planning to test our peaceful limitations the hard way. Commander Blake studied the tactical displays. How long until they reach our outer colonies? 48 hours at their current speed, Rodriguez replied. Our defense fleet can be in position in 6 hours, but Command wants to avoid any fighting if possible. The Kalani don't understand what they're dealing with, Blake said, quietly. Their ships move through normal space using conventional drives. Our vessels exist partially outside normal space-time. It won't be a battle. It will be a demonstration of how far beyond them we've evolved. Dr. Amy Watson was working with a team of volunteers from various species, trying to determine if any of them could learn to use simplified versions of human consciousness technology. The results were mixed but encouraging. Species with more creative, emotional minds showed better results than those with purely logical thinking patterns. Dr. Kevin Park, one of Watson's research assistants, had made an interesting discovery. The artistic guilds from the Harmony worlds show real potential, he reported. Their minds work in patterns similar to humans when they're creating music or visual art. We might be able to teach them basic consciousness interface techniques. Dr. Susan Mitchell, another team member, was studying the psychological effects of the revelation on different species. The logical species like the Kalani and the mathematics collective are having the hardest time accepting what we've shown them, she observed. Their minds simply can't process technology that doesn't follow predictable rules. As the galactic situation continued to develop, Jake received an encrypted message from Admiral Stone on Earth. The content was brief, but significant. Phase 2 authorized. Full disclosure protocols now active. Prepare for contact with the Deep Fleet. Jake stared at the message in confusion. Deep Fleet? In all his briefings about Operation Revelation, no one had mentioned anything called the Deep Fleet. Apparently, humanity still had secrets that even he didn't know about. Outside the station's windows, more human ships were arriving. Not the consciousness-driven vessels like Defiance and Harmony, but older ships that looked familiar. Transport vessels, supply ships, and what appeared to be civilian craft. But something was different about them. They moved with the same impossible grace as the military vessels, as if even human civilian technology had been upgraded. The galaxy was changing by the hour, and Jake realized that everything they had, revealed so far, might just be the beginning. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this moment, and they apparently had plans within plans that even their own diplomatic corps didn't fully understand. The age of galactic stability was ending, and something entirely new was about to begin. 6 months had passed since the day humanity revealed their true nature to the galaxy. The massive space station called Harmony floated where Nexus Prime once stood, but everything about it was different. The old council chambers had been replaced, with open areas where beings from dozens of species worked together, learning to use consciousness-driven technology. Captain Lisa Hayes, now Admiral Hayes, walked through the station's main research facility. Around her, humans and aliens sat in meditation circles, their minds connected through quantum fields that allowed them to share thoughts and experiences directly. What had once seemed impossible was becoming normal for a new generation of galactic citizens. "Status report, Commander," Admiral Hayes said to her aide, Lieutenant Commander Mark Johnson. "The training programs are exceeding all expectations," Mark replied, checking his neural interface device. "We now have successful consciousness tech, operators from 12 different species. The artistic guilds from the Harmony worlds are particularly gifted. 3 of their members can now pilot basic consciousness vessels." Admiral Hayes smiled. The galaxy had adapted faster than anyone expected. The key had been education, not force. Instead of trying to impose human technology on other species, they had offered to teach those who wanted to learn. In the diplomatic wing of the station, Jake Morrison was meeting with representatives from the former Kalani Empire. The aggressive military state had collapsed 3 months earlier, but not through war. Instead, it had broken apart as younger Kalani rejected their leaders' hostility toward the new galactic order. "Ambassador Morrison," said Representative Veltara, a young Kalani who spoke for the Progressive Kalani Coalition. "Our colonies in the Outer Rim are requesting human protection. The militant Kalani forces are still attacking settlements that refuse to join their resistance movement." Jake nodded, thoughtfully. The Kalani split had been inevitable once their military proved helpless against consciousness technology. When General Vorthak's fleet had tried to attack human colonies, their weapons simply stopped working when they entered human space. The quantum fields generated by human consciousness had made conventional weapons useless. "We can provide protection," Jake said carefully. "But you understand the conditions. Any worlds under human protection must agree to the Conscious Evolution Accords. No military aggression, no forced expansion, and complete cooperation with other species." "Our people accept these terms gladly," Veltara replied. "We've seen what cooperation can accomplish. The shared research stations are producing technologies that benefit everyone." Across the galaxy, the changes continued to spread. The Zephyrian Trade Federation had become humanity's closest partner, using consciousness-enhanced cargo ships to revolutionize galactic commerce. Trade routes that once took months now required only days. Goods could be manufactured by thought alone, creating abundance where scarcity had once ruled. Dr. Amy Watson stood in her laboratory aboard Harmony Station, but she wasn't alone. Dr. Zendara, a scientist from the Ethereal Collective, worked beside her. The being of living light pulsed with excitement as they studied quantum field patterns together. Your species was correct about consciousness being the fundamental force, Dr. Zendara said, his light brightening with each word. But you've only discovered the beginning. There are deeper layers of reality that consciousness can access. Amy looked up from her instruments. Deeper layers? What do you mean? The Ethereal Collective transcended physical form millions of years ago, Dr. Zendara explained. We learned to exist as pure consciousness. Your species is beginning the same journey, but you're taking a different path. You're keeping your physical forms while expanding your mental abilities. This revelation excited Amy more than she could express. The idea that consciousness evolution was an ongoing process, not a destination, opened up possibilities she had never imagined. Meanwhile, Admiral Patricia Stone was meeting with the Deep Fleet Command aboard the vessel Transcendence. The Deep Fleet had been humanity's most carefully guarded secret, even more hidden than their consciousness technology. These ships existed entirely outside normal space-time, crewed by humans who had learned to exist partially as energy beings, while maintaining their physical bodies. The galactic situation has stabilized faster than our projections suggested, reported Captain Danny Williams, commander of the Deep Fleet Reconnaissance Division. Most species are adapting to the new order. Only the militant Kalani and a few isolated civilizations are still showing active resistance. Admiral Stone studied the tactical displays showing the entire galaxy. Green markers indicated species that had joined the Alliance of Conscious Species. Yellow markers showed neutral civilizations that were still deciding their position. Red markers, thankfully few, represented hostile forces. What about the signals from beyond our galaxy? Admiral Stone asked. Captain Williams activated a new display showing quantum signatures detected from distant galactic clusters. The patterns are becoming clearer. There are definitely consciousness-evolved civilizations in other galaxies. They're trying to communicate with us. Are they friendly? Unknown. But the signal patterns suggest peaceful intent. It appears that consciousness evolution naturally leads to cooperation rather than aggression. The universe itself seems designed to prevent consciousness-evolved beings from becoming aggressive. Back on Harmony Station, Jake Morrison received a message that would change everything once again. Dr. Watson had made a discovery that revealed the final truth about humanity's place in the cosmic order. Jake, you need to see this immediately, Amy said through the communication system. We've decoded part of the quantum signals from deep space. The beings trying to contact us, they're not aliens. Jake rushed to Amy's laboratory where she had assembled a team of the galaxy's best consciousness researchers. The holographic display showed complex patterns that seemed to pulse with life. These signals contain genetic markers, Amy explained, her voice filled with wonder. DNA sequences that match human patterns, but they're incredibly ancient, millions of years old. What are you saying? Jake asked. Earth wasn't humanity's birth world, Amy replied. We're descendants of a consciousness-evolved species that spread across multiple galaxies millions of years ago. They left genetic seeds on suitable worlds, then transcended physical existence entirely. We're their children, finally growing, up enough to rejoin them. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just another species that had developed consciousness technology. They were the offspring of beings who had mastered the universe itself. Jake looked around the laboratory at the humans and aliens working together, their minds linked through quantum fields that connected them across space and time. The galaxy they had known was ending, but something far greater was beginning. What happens now? He asked. Amy smiled, her eyes reflecting starlight from the observatory windows. Now we teach the galaxy what we've learned. We help other species begin their own consciousness evolution. And eventually, when we're ready, we take our place among the transcended ones who have been waiting for us to grow up. Outside Harmony Station. Ships from 100 different worlds moved through space using technology that merged consciousness with matter. Children from dozens of species played together in the station's gardens, learning to shape reality with focused thought and mutual cooperation. The age of purely physical technology was ending. The age of consciousness evolution had begun. And humanity, the species once dismissed as primitive, had become the galaxy's teachers in the art of transcending the limitations of ordinary existence. The universe was vast and full of wonders yet to be discovered. And for the first time in galactic history, all species were invited to explore those wonders together.